Welcome everyone to the session Leveraging Data from Space. Chairing this wonderful session, Dr. T. Ravisankar, Deputy Director, Bhuvan Geoportal and Web Services Area, NRSC. I welcome you, sir. And moderating the session is Lieutenant General Dr. A.K.S. Chandele, President Defense, Internal Security and Public Safety, Geospatial World. And our eminent speakers are Mr. Arvind Pandey, Director, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Arpan Sahoo, COO, KaleidEO, a SatSure company, Mr. Adithya K, Co-founder and Chief Product Officer, SkyServe. I welcome all of you to come onto the stage, please. Thank you. I request the chair, Dr. T. Ravisankar, to come on the dais and speak a few lines. Thank you.
Good afternoon to one and all, and my panelist colleagues, and on the dais and off the dais. And good afternoon and warm welcome once again, because after lunch it is slightly heavy thing. Let us see now the topic for discussion is leveraging data from space. The point is, I am in this National Remote Sensing Center for more than 3 decades. So you can imagine from mid-80s to now early 20s how we have had a journey. Because I started with the initial sensors, IRS, and then we grew with the technologies in terms of the resolutions, because we have multi-sensor resolution, multi-platforms, and all other things we have. And when we started the journey, it was everyone was space means if you go to the civilian society, they have a feeling it is all defense and very secret, and you can't use. And even to my surprise, when I went to my college, that is Pusa Institute in Delhi, my professors used to ask one question, whether you are working for a secret mission or is it for what? Then I told, no sir, we are all for civilian applications, the satellite data and other things. And that's how I started my career with the development of methodologies, technologies. And today, if you see most of the, I have used almost all the satellite sensor data sets in my career and developed methodologies and the databases for various natural resources in the country. Because today the discussion is how this has to be leveraged for the various sectors in the country, for the natural resource management or infrastructure or for any other applications, how this data what is available can be made use or made available. There are two things. So once it was the data was only from the government side, say ISRO and other things, and during late 80s or mid 90s, the availability itself was a very big thing. And you know, the sensors were also close to medium resolution, and the applications were also at the state level or country level, because your application of satellite data directly depends on the resolution and repeating it. For example, if you take the agriculture sector, because how do we use the data from space to in the agriculture sector? Basically, we need data almost every 15 days once, starting from the June, because in Indian scenario, the agriculture season starts from 1st June, the monsoon starts, and it ends by next year, say May 31st. So this is a agriculture calendar year, and the sector-wise also, if you look at, there are different things. For example, if you see the water sector or hydrology sector basically needs the satellite data during the post Kharif season to see how much water is harvested. That's so the application is different, the quantity estimations are different. And then if you come to the sectors like urban sector or infrastructure and other sectors, what do they need? They need a different kind of satellite data sets of very high resolution of say of the order of 5 meters to 1 meter or sub-meter resolution data. So now the entire business or trade-off is the resolution versus the applications. The agriculture, the first question in India because is, how do I know the crop area at the end of the Kharif season or within the Kharif season? So to assess the cropped area or potential crop area, we need the satellites with a medium resolution of say 50 meters spatial resolution and make the data these things. Initially we developed the methodologies, and the Department of Space started a program called Natural Resource Census, like population census. See, population census, all of you know that it is done at once in 10 years, whereas the natural resources are for the sustainable development of resources in the country. We thought that different themes will have different time periods. For example, agriculture sector, you need data from annual to every 5 years once at 1 is to say 250,000 scale. Scale is also very important. 1 is to 50,000 scale. That is for at a district level information on agriculture sector. Then if you look at the mineralogy, soils, groundwater potential, these are all the different thematic sectors. Though the initial information, with the, as I told you already, the initial information was available at 1 is to 250,000 scale, but subsequently we have come to 1 is to 50,000 scale, and entire country satellite database and thematic information services are ready. That means satellite data, thematic services are available. With the availability of very high resolution satellite data from 5 meters or higher than 5 meters up to 2.51 meter, then we have also prepared the thematic data base for the country at 1 is to 10,000 scale. Here people can understand and appreciate the efforts needed to generate 1 is to 10,000 scale thematic data set. See, getting satellite data is one aspect. There are other issues when you deal with the data, that in terms of the accuracies or geometric accuracies, all these things we have to maintain. And deriving the value added products like land use land cover map or soil map or geology map, this is another data set. And this based on my experience and the experience in the Department of Space and our centers, we all conceptualized and prepared thematic databases for the country and hosted on Bhuvan, where from I am holding that post of Deputy Director, and Bhuvan is a Geoportal where all the thematic data services and all other data available in the ISRO centers is hosted on Bhuvan, and we are giving services to the users. If you look at the users, in India we have central government users, then ministries, then state level, private users, academia, and many of the other private users and other things. So just I would like to give you some statistics how the scenario has changed, that will give you some these things. So we have not only have the ground stations in India to collect our own census data, but we have also established the ground stations in foreign countries where they also collect the satellite data and supply to the local users. So we have both Indian and international ground stations and other things. And if you see the sector-wise how this satellite data is being utilized, you can say that roughly the state ministries or central government ministries, roughly the space data is used more than 50% whatever we acquire or procure from foreign EO data sets. And for geospatial services, it is around 15% of the satellite data is being utilized. And academics and private sectors, they are 1% to academic sector is 1%, private is also 1%, because now with the last year the geospatial policy is announced, now it is opening up. Probably in years to come, we expect that many of the projects will be handled by the private or private companies. So it's being expected to increase. Then some foreign companies or foreign countries are also buying certain data sets from us, from Indian this thing. That is also, I think in the years to come, it is going to increase. Then as we have to see the leverage from for different sectors. If you look at the agriculture sector is the one which is maximum this data is being utilized to the order of say around 20%. Then around 24% to 25% some defense related applications are being used. Then around 17 to 20% for hydrological applications. Then if you see, because why if you look at these applications and percentage, it is nothing but because of the availability of the high resolution, non-availability of high resolution for other applications. For example, if you need the infrastructure studies like roads or oil pipeline monitoring or infrastructures, any other related like housing and other things, you need say minimum at least 1 meter or higher than 1 meter satellite data, which is now only available in the international sector, and Indian also we have, but to a very limited extent. So that is how the satellite data, the spatial resolution, spectral resolution is also very important. In the morning also we had a discussion. If you look at the sensors, what type of satellite remote sensing data sets we have. We have optical, all of you know that it is in the visible range, and you have microwave, and we have thermal data, we have hyperspectral data. So these data sets, these are all different sensors, and they have got very unique applications. For example, hyperspectral will have 1 meter, 1 nanometer or 5 nanometer data sets from 400 to 2500 nanometers. So hundreds of spectral bands are available, but you have to need a specialized processing techniques and other things to identify your mineral of interest or any other specific particular deficiency of nutrient in the soil or in the crop. So like that, the hyperspectral data has got a very specific application, and if you see in the literature of the remote sensing applications and other things, it is a one field which is going to increase in the years to come. And because now as the resolutions are increasing, the application overall general applications like what I talked you, the cropped area or land use or one bigger theme will not be sufficient. If you go with the high resolution data, they want to go into specifics, like for example, how much area is there under wheat, paddy or red gram. They want to go into specific types of crops, not the broad level of say major crop like paddy and wheat is the dominant in Indian scenario. But of late, people are interested in other oilseed crops like groundnut or mustard and other things. For this, you need to have some specific high resolution satellite data sets. And the next question coming is, in the agriculture sector, the prediction of droughts. Drought though we are estimating, so for prediction or identifying the stress, you need some other spectral bands called red edge and other things which comes from hyperspectral region. So like that the applications are increasing, and mineral targeting and other things also needs hyperspectral data sets. Microwave, for example, it plays a dominant role in understanding the soil moisture and soil moisture estimation and the stress and other things. So combining optical and the microwave data, both of them will enable the Indian scenario to understand when the drought is going to initiate and how long it is going to stand. So like that, there is a combination of satellite sensors data is required. And if you look at the, once the Bhuvan platform is created around 2009-10, we started with simply whatever data was available at the time, we just simply developed a Bhuvan portal and hosted there. People used to have just visualization of what is exactly happening in the country. Then we moved, as the time is moving, we moved from visualization to map-centric. So we started pushing all the maps. As I already informed, that we have developed a lot of digital databases for land use, land degradation, wastelands, and all other things. These data sets are all hosted on Bhuvan. The next stage after that is user-centric. As you know, in 2015, Prime Minister of India wanted that the space technology need to be utilized in all the sectors in this country, and we had a very big seminar in the 2015 in the month of September in Vignan Bhavan. All the ministries, we had a focused interaction and developed many programs using geospatial and satellite data for the flagship Government of India various ministry flagship programs. For some examples I can give you is the rural development, the watershed programs. So we have created a web solutions, And with mobile, we have created the geotag solutions for the field level activities, and satellite imagery using that, what is the impact. So end-to-end solutions we have developed. And for Ministry of Rural Development, another major program is the Manrega, where the mandate is to create 150 days employment to the people, and government want how these technologies can be made use, and we have developed a simple the geotagging solutions. And then in the next phase they asked what else after geotagging. Then we told not only one time geotag, you can have before the activity started, during the activity, and once the activity is complete. That means totally you can have a solution end to end, because at that point level activities, the spatial information you cannot derive directly from the satellite image. So we have gone to that level. The next question again they asked, you have done this geotagging before, next what? Then we told, we gave a solution, we came out with a portal called Yuktadara. That means depending on all the thematic data, point of interest data sets available, we have created a planning portal. So before you start any planning on the ground, any activity in this Manrega or watershed or Panchayat Raj, based on the thematic data sets available, you can use this portal and draw a plan at a Gram Panchayat level. Then after drawing the Gram Panchayat level plan, this has to be circulated to the people in the Gram Sabha, and they have to approve the plans, so that again it comes back to the Bhuvan portal, whatever the activities approved. And we as a scientist sit here in the labs and try to, though we have a lot of experience in terms of interpretation and analysis, it is ultimately what the user need at the grassroots level. So that is why it is called, plan is developed scientifically, but we go to the Gram Sabha and take their approval for implementing certain activities. And see, ultimately, to benefit the mass, we need to at times you have to consider certain example needs of them and try to adjust the plan. One example I will just tell, and I will close my talk because I have taken time. In Orissa, when we went, we were working in the tribal area. In the tribal village, we developed plans. Actually, tribal, it is called a Tanda, or the hamlet of one particular village in the Orissa. Then we gave some design. Here you construct check dam, here you construct potholes, here you construct this and other things. The people, the tribal people came and asked, sir, can you give us a plan just adjacent to the village boundary, a diversion channel, because that is in a Koraput district, more than 2000 mm of rainfall is there. So that rainfall can be harvested and passed to the boundary of the village, so that the tribes need not go far away to wash their cattle or these things. So such type of requirements, if you incorporate in your plans, that will create really a lot of impact in the whom it is concerned. So this is how the databases are created, the applications are developed. And if you look at the Bhuvan portal, what I was telling, I'll just give you some statistics, how much data sets are available there on the Bhuvan. We have more than 3.6 lakh registered users. We have got then data, vector data to the tune of 800 GB. Then raster data, satellite data, we have more than 45 TB. Project specific data sets are there. Then gridded data are there. Then we have got our own IRS data, since our data is made available free, the IRS list 3 or AVS data. And once this remote sensing space policy comes, remote sensing data space policy is opened up, then all the data sets what is available in 6 months old or something can be made available to the user. Then crowdsourcing data, we have more than 100 million. And we have got more than 200 applications on the Bhuvan. Then I would like to give some more information. Then this much data sets are available in Bhuvan Geoportal. How much is downloaded? See, for example, from satellite data, total download you can see is 18,45,329 by various sectors. Because of the restricted policy till recently, till 2021, there was a problem in giving the data to all the users freely, but now it is opened up. Thematic data sets, whatever is available, we are a simple undertaking form, you can fill and download the data for your use. You ask who are the users who are using the maximum data available on the Bhuvan. One user is basically the central ministries. Suppose water sector, Jal Shakti Abhiyan wants some data sets, we provide them. Agriculture sector wants something, we will provide. Like that. Then the IITs, the researchers, the modelers, they all want the land use land cover data sets and other data sets. And we are also having the environment and climate and environment variable data sets. These are all required for modeling. So any researcher, he need not start developing the product. He can directly use and build the models on that. And now, latest what we are doing from Bhuvan in this decade, from 2021 to 2030, we are moving towards data science. Why? Because we have a lot of data sets on the Bhuvan, and we are developing algorithms, AI and ML. And recent one of the applications we did in this is all of you know that a lot of solar farms are established in this country. Since we have got that satellite data sets and thematic layers, using AI ML techniques, we could extract all the solar farms established in Gujarat and Rajasthan state-wise. And based on that, we can understand how much potential is created. And other states also we are doing like that. There are many applications, and this is how. But all these things said and done so far, but very important component in using the data from space is capacity building up. So in all the programs, if you look at in the Bhuvan, every month or bi-monthly once we are conducting online or offline Bhuvan training programs. So this is also very important to make use of the available data in the country. And many private people, startups, they are all now coming to the Bhuvan portal, as you morning also we saw. But since the protocols are how to handle these things, we are just working out. Once it is all done, I think anybody can come and work and take the data sets. And the one thing I can tell you is, if you want to make the things business model, we have not discovered price for the data sets available with us. So once we do the other things, any service in the business means you give a service and charge. Even you charge minimum, that doesn't matter. But that's how the policy is opening up. We are also opening up. Probably this is how the country, we have a lot of future. Startups have got a lot of things to do with the available data sets, use solutions to whichever ministry they want. And now ministries are also opened up, and they are also going to many private sector people. That's how the Indian space sector or satellite data that's available in the country. And as all of you know that recently all the private Earth observation operators are also with the high resolution satellite data. Morning we heard lot of things from the people. So this is how the entire sector is getting up, geared up, and exciting future we can see in the nearby. With this, I thank the organizers and my moderator for giving me extra time for giving my ideas and these things. Thank you. Thank you, Anil.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you, Dr. Ravisankar, for this excellent discourse. Very comprehensive. You covered a wide field. People are likely to, miss out on some things which they have in their mind. So I think I will start with questions to you on what you have spoken to us about, both from me and from the audience if there are, and then we shall go on to the other speakers. Is that okay with you? Yes, they will, but we will forget. I mean, you've given us a lot of information, and I have some questions in my mind straight away, so I would like to ask them. First, you mentioned that ISRO has been in existence now for 5 decades plus, and we have grown in capacity and capability, and today we are one of the biggest space programs in the world, right? But like you also mentioned, there were initially some difficulties in downstream applications development services which were to benefit the common man. And one of them you pointed out was the lack of appropriate resolution data initially. Now you have data of the right quality, but that time it was not available to you. Apart from that, what was the reason which sort of delayed the delivery of services resulting from the technologies developed by our space program to the common man? So can you just point out one or two other things which caused this delay? You can take that mic.
Sir, you have raised a very, it's a historical perspective, I should say. And the entire the remote sensing application or the services started, say, from early 80s from Landsat. Then we ourselves launched our satellites in from 1986 onwards, IRS missions. This is one part. The technology development is one part. The second part is the acceptance of the technology and the things vis-a-vis the traditional methods. What is the traditional methods? How the information was going to the grassroots level? And really, any new technology, if you see, initially there will be a lot of resistance to anything. The classical example, when we did first time the forest mapping in this country, in 1972, 73 versus 81, 82, the change if you see. See, first let us accept at the executive level, that is ministries level. Once you accept, because they are the people who are implementing across the country and the beneficiaries are down the line. We are at another extreme of technology developments and other things. The people are here, the ministries or executives are here. The acceptance has to come at this level, then pass on the benefits to the next level. As I told you, when we were evolving the sensor technologies in time, the technologies were also medium resolution or some coarse resolution. That's one of the technology side, but that got resolved over the period of time when sensor technology improved. The orbits have changed and repetitive has changed. Now we have got from 80 meters to 80 centimeters or 20 centimeters. That's how it has developed. But common person to get educated about these programs, as all of you know that any program, flagship program, if you see ministry side, they go with a lot of campaigning and other things, and every state looks towards them for the program and the funds that they receive under the program. Whereas we are developing and giving solutions to the executive, then executive is understanding, trying to understand. The moment the technology gets absorbed in the ministry, the executive layer will change, new set of things. See, there is a process of forward and backward, it is going on initially, and now it has matured to such an extent. Probably now the whatever bottlenecks are in the olden days what we saw at the grassroots level, but still nevertheless, I will give you one example, sir. That is called Sustainable Development Program we launched in 1986 to 1993. In Anantapur there was an apprehension that one Anantapur district in Andhra Pradesh, they were thinking it is going to become desert. So at that time itself, we started preparing the action plans and things, how to control the program at the grassroots level, and went there and demonstrated and saw that some of the resources got in terms of green cover or water table rising and other things. So in spite of these things, still we were with the trying to address the common root problem, and that's how. But today, I think it is well spread. I can say that's what I should tell you at this point.
So the lesson is that there is a need for the agency to sensitize both the public and the executive about the benefits of downstream technologies from space. I think that problem still exists to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Also, would you not feel that the policy regime which existed regarding democratization of data, etc., was also a hindrance in the development of services?
Yes, true. Because the once as you know, you are also from defense the services side. I told even though I am from the one of the highest institute in Delhi, whose I choose. When my professor asked whether you are working for a defense purpose, because his level of knowledge or the spread of the awareness. It's only a simple question of awareness. But I think now that stigma has gone and people are very clear. Even now, today onward, morning onwards, everyone is hearing how the space technology can be leveraged for even defense and other sectors. In that scenario, now entire thing is opened up, policy has changed. You have seen the 2021 Geospatial Guidelines Policy. There's a watershed, I should say, in the entire history of the geospatial or satellite history. Clear-cut guidelines. Earlier, aerial photography, as you know, sir, we have to go to defense and get clearance. But recently when we went, they told not required, as per the guidelines. So that's how the policy changes has come. A watershed marking has come. Now the things will open up. And still, as you told rightly, how far these open-ups will reach to what mile we have to see as a days to come.
Okay, thank you. We'll let you rest for some time and we will continue with our other speakers. So, well, you all know that in any space program, all the glamour is in the launches and the satellites being placed in orbit, etc. But the benefit to the economy comes from the downstream development of services and apps. And with the opening up of our policy on data and geospatial policy, we now expect much faster participation and much greater development of apps and services to benefit the man, common man. And of course, there's a need to sensitize the executive also in between. Now we have with us Mr. Arvind Pandey, who is an ITS officer of the 1993 batch, and he's presently working in the Ministry of Commerce and Industry and looking after the prestigious project PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan. He's also in charge of project monitoring group, which looks at all projects exceeding 500 crores and resolves inter-ministerial issues between central and state governments so as to facilitate the completion of the programs. He's prior to this worked with the DOT and BSNL, and he's been instrumental in uplifting India's rank from 88 in 2020 to 67 in 2021 in Network Readiness Index. So, Mr. Pandey, we will request you to tell us about this Gati Shakti program, your involvement in it, and where are we right now, right? You can speak from where you are, or you can go to the rostrum, whichever way you like. Okay.
Thank you, moderator, for giving this opportunity to speak. In fact, it's very difficult for the audience to tolerate the speaker like us, especially a post-lunch session. So I will try to make it a little more interesting and interactive. Let it be more interactive so that we can understand the concept of Gati Shakti. What Gati Shakti is this? I'll be posing certain questions, and if you don't mind. So, any one of you, how many people you know about the PM Gati Shakti program? Can you raise the hand? I think only 2 hands. 2 plus 2, 4. Okay. PM Gati Shakti. So Gati Shakti is what? Gati Shakti is anything, any concept, any institutional framework with the use of technology or without the use of technology. If it can help in expediting any implementation of any scheme or program, that entire mechanism we call Gati Shakti. So how the Gati Shakti came into existence? What was the problem prior to Gati Shakti? In fact, there is a project monitoring group under the, it was started under the Cabinet Secretariat, then it went to Prime Minister Office, and now it is with DPIIT. So I'm in charge of that project monitoring group also. And there are more than 1800 projects worth more than 500 crore rupees each. So total projects are around 60 lakh crore. So there are a lot of issues. There had been more than 6,500 issues. The issues were related to infrastructure ministry and the state government, like the issues related to your land acquisition, and then forest clearance, and then utility shifting, and some NOCs or some road digging, getting ROW permissions, etc. And there are issues related to inter-ministry also. For example, you are making highway, but there is a railway line in between. They will not be allowing you to construct any. You have to take permission. Highway has to take permission from the railway for construct the overbridge or underbridge, and then the certain issue related to power lines or some gas pipeline is passing through that. Then there has to be some coordination. So because of this lack of coordination, improper planning, I should not say improper planning, in fact the planning is silos. Because of that, the interministerial and center versus state, these issues were arising. So all these issues, they were getting resolved at their own pace, and during the last 1 year, post launch of PM Gati Shakti, we have resolved more than 1,500 issues, and they are all big issues like pending compensation to farmers, and law and order issues, and forest clearances. In fact, the forest has come out with a lot of reforms. You had been reading in newspaper, getting environment clearance and forest clearance is very difficult. There's a lot of news comes every now and then. But forest has done a lot of reforms, and these projects are getting expedited. So prior to launch of Gati Shakti, there are only around 200, 300 or 500 issues were getting resolved. But during the last 1.5 year, it's 1,500 issues have been resolved. So total, out of 6,500 issues pending, we have resolved 5,500. Only 1,000 issues are there. So in order to see that these issues should not come up at all, the concept of PM Gati Shakti was used. And how? In fact, if all the ministry, they work together, as Dr. Ravisankar said, there are a lot of data in every ministry. But that data is not shared with other ministries. So as our PM said, data ek, upyog anek, if we share. So the entire concept of Gati Shakti is to bring all the information together at a common platform in the form of layers, and a portal has been developed by BISAC, Bhaskaracharya Institute of Space Application and Geoinformatics. It's a national institute under Ministry of Information Technology, and it's located at Ahmedabad. They have developed a portal, and in that portal, layers of different ministries, they are all populated. Like infrastructure ministry, rail, road, telecommunication, port shipping and waterways, and your MOPNG, petroleum, and then MNRE, and then power. All these infrastructure ministry, mines, all the layers have been populated. In addition to these, user ministry layers are also populated, like cement sector, your steel sector, coal, and all these user ministry, fertilizers, these layers are also populated. So we have all the information related to all infrastructure, then it's easy to plan. Because, for example, I'm a telecom operator, for example, and I have to, I'm very vulnerable because my OFC gets cut with a, it's very vulnerable. Whenever some road expansion or something takes place, it gets cut. So with the information available, then there can be a coordination. If the information is available that a highway been made, and along the highway there's a pipe. There's a pipe left for the utility corridor is already made. If that information is available, so instead of digging somewhere else, they will utilize that information and lay the cable. So that will not only help in cost cutting, but also expedition in implementation of the projects. So this is the entire concept of Gati Shakti, where a lot of tools have been made. All central ministries, they have got their own portal. They are in charge of updating their data layers and populating the new layers. And similarly, state government also, they have their layers, and they have been populating. Initially there was some resistance from the state government, but now they have realized that there is a benefit of Gati Shakti, so they are coming on board and populating their layers. So there are more than 1,000 layers of central ministry and more than 700 layers of state government, and there are 140 journalists. So more than 1,800 layers are there. It's a very rich database that is being used for planning purposes. And different ministry, they have got their own portal. They are in charge of. They can see, they can update the data, and they can see others' layers, but they cannot update their layers. So they can see state layer, they can see their sister ministries layer, and they can plan their project. And to implement this Gati Shakti, there is an institutional framework. There is an apex committee under the chairmanship of cabinet secretary. That's called EGOS, Empowered Group of Secretaries, where 23 secretaries are of Infra Ministry and User Ministry. They are and MO EFCC. They are all part of that ministry. They are responsible for the implementation National Master Plan. Under that EGOS, there is a network planning group where the joint secretary level officer of each infrastructure ministry, they are part of that group. So any project from 1st April 2022, if it has to go to cabinet, before that it has to come under NPG, network planning group, where the senior officers, the members of network planning group, they will see if there is any, if it has been mapped on the portal, or if there is any, after mapping, some inter-ministerial coordination issue is there. And then once all these things are set right, coordination done, then this project is recommended by network planning group, then only it will be approved by the cabinet, union cabinet. And to support this institutional infrastructure, institutional mechanism, there is a technical support unit which provide all the technical support. There is a domain expert from different ministry. They give all the technical support to the network planning group members to take the decision. And similar arrangement is there at the state level. There is a empowered group of secretaries chaired by chief secretary, and there is a network planning group and the technical support unit, which is giving all the support for planning their own projects. And initial challenge was that people had to be trained. So we have done a lot of workshops and national conferences. 6 zonal conferences have been done, and then training has been given to all state and central ministries on this. And in fact, now the ministry which are not even part of the infrastructure, but there has to be awareness program. So during the last presentation to the Council of Ministers, we have been directed that each deputy secretary and above officer, they must be knowing about the PM Gati Shakti. So in this process, we are targeting around 10,000 officers and to train. Out of 80 ministry, more than I think 60 ministry have been workshop have been conducted. Kindly let me know if I am overshooting the time.
Yeah, what we'll do is we will allow you to rest for some time. We have 2 other colleagues with us in the panel. So we will just listen to them, and then we'll probably have some questions.
I will take only 2 minutes,
okay,
to give you some on-ground impact and what are the different apps have been made. There is an app called Dial Before Digging. So that app is developed by Department of Telecommunication in coordination with BISAC, and that app will alert if some digging is taking place. That will alert that all stakeholders, they have the utilities there. They will be alerted, and they will be asked to come and coordinate so that their assets are protected. So all JCB contractors, they will be mandated to have this app. And once he reaches certain point, there, if he then open up the app and you want to dig, then automatically the message will go. So that app is under testing in Gujarat and Daman. Secondly, from telecom point of view, there's a Gati Shakti Sanchar portal has been made, and that is helping in getting the faster ROW permission. ROW is permission is very critical for implementing all telecom related projects, especially BharatNet. So that portal has been made, and it has been integrated with the all state and central ministries, and now the average time to get ROW permission was 131 days in July 21. Now it has come down to 1.31 days, from 131 days to 1.31 days in a period of 14 months. In social sector also, this Gati Shakti has been used, and Uttar Pradesh government, they have developed an app called Pahuch, where they will see that which village doesn't have a school in 500 kilometer distance. So that tool has been developed, and with the use of that tool, they can locate where the school is to be planned. So the decision will be based on data, not any political decision. If some politicians say it should be in my constituency, no, it has to be data based. Similarly, for Anganwadi and all, there are many tools which have been developed, but due to shortage of time, I will stop here, and I will request you to ask a question.
Thank you, thank you. Right, our next speaker is Arpan Kumar Sahoo. He is co-founder and COO of KaleidEO, which is a subsidiary of SatSure. He is involved in the development of space systems and data analytics. So over to you, Arpan.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I understand everybody is working on their lunch by sitting on the chairs. Okay. So let's speed it up. Okay. Let me put you in a bit of a fix to get your brains working as much as I can. Try to make you a little excited about the impact and what problems we solve from space, right? So I think what I'll start with is basically go work through two examples, okay, very simple ones that we solve as part of the company of SatSure, and probably that will give you an idea of what SatSure does through that journey of those two problem statements, and then I'll conventionally introduce the company after that. So how many farmer households are there in India? Ballpark. Guess. Yeah. Any guess? 5 million, 10 million, 15 million, 16 million. That's the number. Okay. So there are 16 million farmer households in India, pretty much. Not unique farmers. I'm talking about farmer households. These are the people who need access to finance, money, twice a year for 2 seasons, 2 primary seasons. There are 3 seasons, but let's take Kharif and Rabi, 2 primary seasons. What does their financing look like? Be very clear. Structured or unstructured? There are 2 ways, right? Structured financing and unstructured. Structured is through banks. Unstructured is where you go borrow from quote-unquote loan sharks, friends, family, whoever you can get money from to make ends meet, to make sure that the money is there to buy the seeds, buy the fertilizer, buy the equipment to till the land, etc. How many people have access to structured financing? Guesswork. Okay, it's only 4 or 5 million roughly. So there are 10 to 11 million farmer households dependent on unstructured financing or no financing. how does space come into this aspect over here to give everyone equal access to finance? So what SatSure does is basically we have something like, okay, let me take a step back. You and I have CIBIL score, right? Like based on where you have a credit score assessment, you go to your bank, you get a loan, or you have pre-approved loans already ready for you based on your CIBIL score. You get spam messages, right? Everybody gets spam messages. 5 lakh from XYZ bank, XYZ FinServe, things like that, right? But is there a pre-approved process for a farmer household to sitting for them ready to be there? No, it does not exist. What is the regular source of income that a farmer can show based on which he can generate a credit score? No, he cannot. What does he have? All he has is an asset and his process. Process meaning his history of doing cropping, the crop he grows, the way he puts irrigation methods in his soil, what is his soil moisture, cropping pattern, things like that. So all this data can be seen from space, but when you can use all these data sets together, like I'm thankful to Ravisankar sir for letting the context in his talk of the various things that are generated as data sets. When we can take all these data sets together and create some form of structured financing model and give that to the banks. See, I cannot directly go and help a farmer. It's very difficult as a startup or a company to do that. It's the government that can entirely do that primarily, and that's where the KCC comes. But KCC is what? 18% of a bank's portfolio. 18% of a bank's portfolio is mandated to be sent out as KCC disbursement. Kishan, the cash, right? Or the loan. And that's at marginal 2 to 3%. If that has to be dispersed and efficiently dispersed so that everybody gets access to, you have to enable the banks. So where do we come in is we enable the banks through a credit scoring model using space-based data, and that essentially is available at the very end, at the loan officer itself, where he sees a report that says, hey, this farmer has done probably wheat twice a year for the last 3 years. He has good moisture. He has good, no loss of crops in the past 3 years. All this data we have, when we can massage it together and give it as a report, a very easily consumable report, that becomes an actionable insight. It helps them to make a decision. So what SatSure is a decision intelligence company. We do not directly give images. We do not give you information. Because if I have to walk you through the process, you have a lot of sensors in the sky. I mean, we have talked about the sensor fusion in the previous panel, right? We talked about data fusion from different things. But at the end of it, it's still data. Now data, when you use filters, you get information. Now information, if you put wisdom, you get knowledge. But if you put context and problem solving expertise or user feedback and things like that, then you get intelligence. And intelligence is again 2 types, actionable and decision. We will provide you with actionable intelligence. It's the end person, the loan officer making the decision. So we enable decision intelligence. Okay. So this is case number 1. So this is the first problem I was trying to wake you up. Like, so making that responsibility or taking on the responsibility as a startup to enable financial inclusivity in the Indian agricultural scenario. That's what we are doing. Okay. Now let's talk business. Agriculture is a very, it's the core of as an Indian GDP system, right? Now let's talk about infrastructure. I'll walk you through another example. One of the major EPC companies comes to us and says we have to lay a 300-kilometer tower line, a high transmission line, HTL they call it, which is essentially like a 400 or a 600 kV transmission line between 2 substations or grids to be connected across cities. If you have to lay such a power line across 300 kilometers, what is the normal or the conventional method to do it? Survey, right? You have to take data, maps, survey the land, go place by place, do the beeline method and find out what is the shortest path between 2 points. But now all of this can be automated and automated at scale without the need of survey. But what is the use? Where is the business in it? We can help take it a mile further. We can do cost engineering. So as he was saying about thematic maps. So when you have access to data like thematic maps, basically LULC, land use, land cover, You understand what is agricultural, what is forestry area, what is reserved lands, military use, it's at already existing infrastructures, pipelines, oil and gas, things like that. When you can segregate, think about like 16 odd layers roughly of 16 segments or 16 types of layers, and you can then create an algorithm that automatically generates the shortest cost engineered path between 2 points that helps a company bid. That is the final solution. That is impact. So what does that company do? Then says if the tender bid is worth 500 crore, he has more visibility of quoting it at 300 or 350 crore without spending a sizable amount doing surveys which might take 2 to 3 months. So this impact, these are the problem statements of the many that we solve at SatSure. And what we otherwise do also is, apart from infrastructure, is in climate, agroforestry monitoring. We do about, we have done, for example, in Kerala, during one of the floods, we were involved with disaster response and targeted them live where to go, where to send the emergency response and things like that. So we use Earth observation data, massage it with information on ground, create a solution that is actionable and not just data driven. Data is not enough. We have enough data. People have said it in this panel, in the previous panel, data is not the problem. Information is not the problem. Knowledge exists between all of us, but putting everything into a context, talking to the people and finding out what problems to solve, that is where the problem is, and that is what we should try to solve.
So we give an opportunity to the last speaker, and then we'll open for questions. Adithya K. Am I pronouncing it correct? Okay, he's the co-founder and chief of products SkyServe, which is into building cutting-edge tools to help geospatial analysts to deploy their own algorithms and AI models to satellites on a number of EO constellations. So please explain to us what you do.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, fellow panelists, for adding more context to this discussion and different layers of understanding that we are gleaning from this. So to start off, before saying what we do, I'll take you through 2 conversations that we had when we were trying to figure out our way on setting up a business. So one of these conversations was with a financing company, a non-banking financing company, where they heard that satellite data could solve a lot of their problems, and they didn't know what to do. They spoke to us saying, I operate in X number of cities, I have so many sites to survey, I need to go and see whether the loans that I give for, is that money actually being used for the same purpose? So say they want to give money for construction, is construction really happening at that site or not? If somebody's taken money to set up a shop, is that shop really functioning, or is it still an empty piece of land? And typically, as in we are all space enthusiasts, we said, yes, it's possible. We did our own study and we came back to them. And before we could tell our analysis results, this guy asks us, so before you give your solution or recommendation, your solution needs to be on par with at least an Uber fare from the closest NBFC branch to the site of interest, and pick any city that you like and tell me if your solution can be cheaper than that. We didn't have a response after that. Our solution would not be cheaper than an Uber ride, even though Uber rides were getting quite expensive in 2019. Right now, of course, it's just not possible. And this also made us look into the sector and the data available, which said that to answer such questions, you need higher resolution data. You probably even require quicker revisit times to answer such questions. But the people who are interested in this sort of information, even though they are widespread, individually they cannot afford for this. This was one conversation. So the second conversation that we had was with, this is, I guess, yeah. So this is another NBFC. What they asked for is, we want to give tranche-based payment to our customers who are taking, again, pre-approved loans. And in case there is no activity, we will not pay it out. Can you monitor this at scale? And it's sort of real time. So whenever the next tranche comes up, one of our employees will fire up your app and answer the question whether should we pay the next tranche or not. If there is no progress, we either cancel the loan or we go initiate some action for foreclosure or sort of get how much ever of the asset was partially constructed. And here again, price point as well as availability of this type of information is something that we couldn't definitively commit to and say that yes, it can be done. Again, here NBFCs do not give very large loans because there's a huge risk involved in that. So the scale of loans that they give is, say, 10 lakhs to maybe 30 lakhs. And if you had to do monitoring, say, of any activity that is being done with this, it needs to be, say, within the 3% that they have for spending on site executive who can go and monitor. And again, there is no price point solution to this. Technology solution exists. We know that there are different types of data that you could action to do this, but the closest was, say, optical, which many people understand. It is also currently the most cost-effective data, but it also has its holes, as we saw in the previous panel. So these two conversations basically told us that if we could solve this gap, which is the data is not affordable enough to solve a lot of problems that are going under the radar. So there's of course large infrastructure projects which can afford for this data, but what about all the smaller or medium-sized companies across India who need this data, can really benefit from that? They could make their return on investment through this technology. But if we can solve that gap rather than actually solving their application-specific problem, for which there are lots of people, as in SatSure is one of those companies who's actually going and having subject matter expertise to solve that problem. But how do you bridge this gap, which is cost of data, the scale of data, and finally servicing a large number of stakeholders without actually working with every one of them? So that's when the thought for SkyServe came up. I and my co-founders, we are technology, aerospace technology background. All of us have worked at space companies before, and we felt this technology problem can have a technology solution, but it also needs to bring about a business solution. So this is where we have come up with a platform using which solution providers who have their own algorithms or, say, workflows which depend on satellite data can push their solution upstream into the satellites and bring back down only the intelligence layer, as we heard from Arpan. Bring that intelligence down so that now once the cost comes down because the volume of data is lower. The other side is if the intelligence or the inference that actually comes out from any analysis says that there is no change or there is nothing more to add based on what you've already observed, do not charge the customer, because today what's happening is to continuously monitor a location, we have to commit payment upfront to say I'm going to purchase weekly images for the next 1 year in order to be able to monitor it weekly. It's simple math. Multiply 52 by say $200 per square kilometer, whichever is the resolution that applies to this, and just the budget scares away people from building solutions for this. So that's where our technology can solve that confusion, which is you concentrate on the solution, the cost is in proportion to what you're delivering to your own customer, and this is where I think a lot of disruption can come from leveraging this space data. So more we know what we have to do with the data, I think the costs can come down, a lot more business ideas can come to life, and this inefficiency of having to spend a lot more than you actually use can be solved. And I think what we heard from the director of Bhuvan portal is that there's a lot of information there, a lot of, I would say, proof of concepts for a variety of problems to be solved. It's already there on the Bhuvan portal, as in we need our young minds in our country to pick those up and scale them up into business plans. And of course, SkyServe is there to help in case you want to actionize them and put them onto satellites so that the cost is low. But I think, yeah, these solutions need to be built based on data that's already been accumulated for a lot of years in the data banks in the country. So with that, I'll hand it over back.
Thank you. So we have a few minutes left, and before I open the floor for questions, what Dr. Ravisankar had mentioned about 2015. You see, we've seen that in the earlier 3 or 4 decades, the downstream applications development was rather slow, right, sir? And now, also with the present government taking a lot of interest, and I would like to read to you portions of a letter that the Cabinet Secretary had written to all the central ministries and the state governments based on directions of the Prime Minister, after the Prime Minister had visited the launch at Sriharikota on 30th June 2014, that is within a month of taking over as the Prime Minister. He gave directions, and they generally read like this, that the Prime Minister felt that while development and deployment of space technology-based tools has made progress in some areas, there is a need to examine in greater detail how these can be mainstreamed and used more effectively wherever applicable. In the work of central ministries and state governments, he also emphasized the need for generating greater awareness of the use of space technology for government and development. He has separately asked the Department of Space to formulate a program for this purpose, and this is what you were referring to. And immediately after the issue of this letter, there was a flurry of activity in each ministry, department. They were all asking, what can space do for us? They were asking all experts in the private sector. We had a number of meetings with a lot of people, and then each ministry was asked to develop its plan and submit within 2 weeks. So that was the sort of emphasis which was given at that point of time, and which is continuing. And also, recently, the Department of Space has issued a tender which says to carry out the socio-economic impact analysis of the Indian space program. This was issued just on the 14th of October, last date 4th of November. It has asked consultancy firms in India with credibility to respond to this tender, and they want to know that right from the inception of the space program in 1969, what has been the impact, and they have specified where all they want to see the impact, in which sectors and fields. This is available on the Department of Space site, and you can go and have a look as to what the government or what the Space Department wants to know, whether there has really been any impact in the on the socio-economic condition in these sectors, right? So with that, one question quickly to Arpan. You know about Swamitva program? Little bit, no? So that means monetizing the household rural holdings of farmers. Okay. It is meant as an asset for getting money. So have you catered this in your program? No. Okay. So let me tell you also, on the ground reality is that for agricultural loan, as far as farmers are concerned, there are public sector lead banks which have been given targets of dispersal of loans irrespective of collaterals. Okay. It is now the bank managers which are chasing the farmers that please take a loan from me and forget about baad mein maaf ho jayega. Take it, right? So things have changed, so you have to look at your business model a little bit, right? Okay. And then why go to an institutional? I am a cold storage. I stock his potatoes. He gives me 100 bags. I return him 80, he's happy. Okay, 20 I've charged as my interest. Okay, so these are models. He goes to the fertilizer guy, he pays him a little bit of interest, but that he takes the fertilizer from him. So it's a win-win for both. So these are the things which are actually happening on the ground. I'm just, as a matter of, discussion with you, that these are the realities which are on the ground. So you have to factor all these things in when you're looking at these programs. And sir, Ravisankar sir, we have opened up data. Anybody from the private sector can come and take data from us, use it for commercial purpose. But there is some sort of a feeling that the data is now vintage data, and it needs to be updated. It's not much use, right? So what is your remark on that?
You have raised a nice point. In fact, I told that we started developing all the databases based on the NR Census 1 program. It was a period for 5 years, 10 years, some thematic layers database. See, once the government started, once we have demonstrated the technologies, databases for this entire country, the government felt that now things have matured. Now these databases need to be taken up by the private sector. Now we need, because every thing is hosted for entire national, not one time, 2-3 times, and entire methodologies are available. Later satellite data and other things, they let the other person take up, depending on the need. Now we have demonstrated, given the national level things, perspective, now it is the ministries and it is the public or it is the private sector who can give a solution. Suppose I am telling you that 2015-16 land use land cover data for entire country at district level is available. Now, 50,000. That is for 3 cycles is there. 2005-6, 11-12, 15-16. Now 2022 or 23, if any state government wants or any ministry wants, they can go to anybody and get it done. That's how now we don't want to take up same data. See, there is opportunity, plenty of scope for the people to see. And in the context of climate change, this is also they can do the business and add value to the Indian system.
And Pandey sir, you see, Gati Shakti is to facilitate the projects which are happening, right? To remove the glitches. But with so much satellite data available today, why do these glitches occur? I mean, freight corridors were developed. You knew these freight corridors are coming up, and there are roads crisscrossing, overbridges, flyovers have to be built over them. 2 years of delay in the thoroughfare getting through. I mean, that means there is no coordination. This is the reason why the Shakti came into existence. As I said, there was a project monitoring group which was monitoring the progress of project.
Project monitoring group, which was monitoring the project progress of the project. And during the monitoring, all these issues came that so many problems are coming with so many interministerial and
that
coordination.
For the future, you have been sorted
and
it out. I am just giving you practical positions that we have seen at so many places that overhead high tension line is going over overbridge which is built. Overbridge is not being connected because the height between the overbridge and the tension line, because line is drooping over there, right? For 2 years it remains like that. I mean, this is
this is the problem.
I mean,
because if you have the problem, then only you can find out the solution.
Yeah, but you see, like you said, each state government, you said, dial before you dig. Okay, each state government has been legislated to provide all geospatial data regarding all submarine assets or subterranean assets, okay, on the portal, so that nobody comes and sort of digs in the wrong place, right? But still this is not happening. I mean,
all state government, they have their own remote sensing agency.
Yeah, but they've been legislated that you will provide all this data in public domain.
No. This data is not in public domain.
It should be in public domain.
Let me tell you why it is not in public domain. Because lot of country's infrastructure data is there in that portal. It's very rich data, and it's also sensitive data. So we have asked the Ministry of IT to frame some guidelines, which layers can be made public.
I mean, that is for
And,
you. That is
we
for
have
you
come up
to
with
decide.
certain
I am not talking of sensitive or critical
Huh.
installation data, right?
In-
Or not even sensitive things. We are only talking of general utilities data.
In utility data, it is there for the users. All central government department, all state government department, they are the owner, they are the user of that data. They are having all access to the data, and they are using it. With the use of that data only they are planning. Now the planning has started. अभी
Right,
so
right.
far since the launch of
आप
last
शाम को
year-
मेरे साथ नोएडा में चलिए, मैं आपको दिखाऊंगा कई जगह 3 बार वहीं खुदाई हो रही
हाँ,
है.
हाँ, बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
Anyway.
अभी तो launch हुआ है.
Okay.
मतलब it may take certain
Yes, yes.
few
No,
more
no,
years
we
to
are
get implemented.
hoping that this will work out. That's what we are hoping is working out.
Yeah.
I have not left any time, but still one or two questions from the audience. Yes, please. Can you give a mic there, please? I'm raising about the report study. My question is continuation of what you said, sir. Just to Mr. Pandey. Sir, we have been going through all the sites because we are now currently of almost all the ministries. The unfortunate part is, sir, when this development took place, all ministries hired their, I'll say contractor, whatever you want to call them as agencies, which develop these IT sites for them. Now you go through the ministry sites, all of them are different. Somebody wrote a different way of login, somebody wrote a different way of search pattern and keywords and the listing of the portal. My request is, sir, if for a common person to go through and all and have the commonality of that, we are saying database, it will be easy for people if the sites are almost similar. In the same country, we can't have different sites telling different type of data. So while you are still saying that it's being developed, I think there is still time when we can connect there. I'll give you examples from the US. Normally I shouldn't quote it, but I must tell you that I've extensively done research on US. From anywhere, from Maryland to Texas, you open any site, they are all symmetrical. That means I have a simple way of search method for any data that I want. If I'm looking at particular data, it is in the similar form it is available. That will ease off the problem. Otherwise, what happens? Each one has got its own database, each one has got its own way of doing it, and maybe, sir, it is the liking of the personality-based things have got developed. But I think we need to bring them on a common platform. It helps. That was my suggestions. Thank you. Any other question, please? Yeah.
Good evening, sir. I am Commandant R.K. Srivastava. I am a serving Coast Guard officer, presently appointed in the National Maritime Foundation. Sir, thank you very much for giving us such a wonderful insight on the Bhuvan. So I would like to know what kind of data we can leverage for the purpose of the search and rescue and the maritime fisheries specifically, and especially the area of the near to the coast, where which actually the Coast Guard and other state agencies have problems of population, wherein which it cannot be monitored continuously.
The specific answer is, sir, specifically we have Space Application Center Ahmedabad, where the SAT communication, SAT navigation related solutions are provided. They are all, maybe you can see the one more Geoportal is called Vedas, maintained by the SAT Ahmedabad. You please contact them, you may get some solution there. We are mostly dealing with the thematic applications, land and other things, these things. So we are, as far as this maritime and other coastal related things, you may see they look there.
Thank you very much.
Sir, just to throw some light into that, yes, we have been exploring potential business cases in the maritime segment. The two major important problems that come is, obviously, one is the fishing advisory and the other is the dark vessel. These are the two, I would say, flagship problem statements of the maritime domain right now. The thing is, the fishing structure or the fishing community in India is around, it's a sizable population and most of them don't have access to, it's significant, it's as good as the agricultural community that we are saying. And the problem here is they don't have the funding or the capacity to install a simple SAT system on board. And because of the size of the fleet that they are operating, or the dinghies, or even to the lorries and whatever size of trawler they are operating on. If we have thought about it, the first step we feel as from the private is enabling them first to have access to some form of infrastructure, a basic infrastructure enabling the fisher community to have access to a very, very rudimentary, something that can probably use, for example, and we have brainstormed it, probably take advantage of the Navic system itself. Because Navic is not just about data transmission, it is data uplink also. It can possibly support as small as a 10-letter word update. So you can probably upload something like help up. If you have something as simple as Navic receiver on your end, where you can press a SOS, it automatically relays the information positional update along with the SOS.
Cheap system which is being facilitated by the state governments to the small fishing boats.
Exactly.
Not the bigger one.
Not the bigger ones. Yes.
In any case, that is being. That is there. Inquiry is also helping us in carrying out the surveillance for the pollution, oil pollution areas also. Those things are there. But here problem is something else. What you are talking about is probably the infrastructural information as far as geotagging of the fishing harbour and the landing points is concerned.
Yes.
There is enough data available with the fisheries department. That is there.
Yeah.
But now, finally, it comes to the physical surveillance only. Because whether people are interested in sharing their position itself, because somebody else will come in that area where the fishing ground is found, something like that.
The knowledge of intention, that's the problem statement here. And for this, it's large-scale analytics problem that we both like SatSure and SkyServe have partnered together.
The problem is, just to add on to it, then you can give us the reply. To add on to it, not only the knowing of the positions of the small fishing boats. The problem is whether how much this kind of data we can leverage it for the knowing the position, exact position of them, so that at least we can utilize this for the purpose of the initiating the search and rescue procedure in case of this.
Okay, then I think we've had an. Yeah, please.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is a GIS policy for all states to have their assets, land assets to be mapped. One state that we see is Maharashtra, which has done significant efforts to keep the GIS maps updated using satellite data. While the regulation has come in for such kind of a data set to be done by the states to resolve land disputes, to make sure urban planning and multiple other things, we don't see a similar efforts by other states. They're still catching up, or some states are doing it. There's a lot of gap in the data sets that we get. So is there, I do not know if it's whose prerogative it is as a part of the panel to take the question. So is there any efforts?
I think, see, like you said, it is a state subject, right?
But it does affect the country.
Land, this is the revenue department of the state, which does most of the, mapping of the ground. And some states have gone ahead, right? Some states are laggards, absolutely. I wouldn't like to name them. But, and some have, they've used drone surveying to give exact boundaries of agricultural lands between, half the problems in the courts today are land disputes between farmers. And if the lands are clearly demarcated, there will be no problem. Other half is because of women, that we are not considering, right? So, Uttar Pradesh, for example, I have no doubt in saying that is lagging behind totally. Maps, physical maps, even cloth maps are what are being used, right? Far away from drone technology and all that. But I think things are improving, and Pandey Saab is helping us to improve them.
Yes, I'll add one more point to your question. See, as you was mentioning, I also mentioned that 2015 we had a national level meet. Subsequently, we followed it up with the cabinet secretary only wrote to all state chief secretaries. Every state we have conducted same space meet at state level. That means some, as you was telling, Maharashtra is one forward state. Maharashtra, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh. There are some forward states where they have taken the technologies to the extent whatever they can do. Some states are middle level. Some states are in a lag, as I was telling. And another impact of that meetings, you know, is every state now has come up with MAP IT. MAP IT department itself is separate. They are also coming into picture, and ultimately it is the state subject who has to take what information, what developmental things to move progressively forward. This is what is the only I can say. And Maharashtra in many aspects they have taken a very forward steps, and others are catching up. But Karnataka is also equally good. You can't say like that. We know the entire country what is the status of remote sensing centers, and where they are very clear, and who have come forward, and all these things. And but definitely I can tell you, all states are now pulled up. That much I can tell.
I want to add to it. In fact, as sir said, this is the state subject, and it's up to the state how do they want to map it. But how to engage them? During Gati Shakti, we had certain experience. Certain states, they were not coming forward. In fact, they were not picking out phone calls also. Yes. Their junior phone call of secretary level officer was not picked up by principal secretary of state because of reasons best known to them. So Prime Minister had a one conference of chief secretaries where Gati Shakti was discussed, and people shared their experiences. And all the states, they were quite elated about the implementation. Then after that, those two states which were not participating, they came forward and they said, we want to onboard. Tell us how to go about it. And now they have onboarded, and they are now going with the super fast speed. The person who was not picking up the call, now they are calling back to our junior officer also. See how to do it, please guide. So this is one is the competition. You make the comparison, peer to peer, have some index, compete them, and then give incentive. Government of India in this budget have allocated 1 lakh crore as a special assistance to states. And there are 7 parts. One part 2 of the scheme is that 5,000 crore is allocated for Gati Shakti related projects. Those state who want to come on board, 5,000 crore is allocated. So this way they are getting incentivized, and we have also imposed certain conditions. You have to map all these things, then only you can get fund. Okay. So this way they are coming up, and now after coming up, they are seeing the benefit of it. So it's all the cycle is now. Thank you.
Shortly will go away. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll request you to applaud the panelists for their presentations. Thank you very much. Thank you. We have tea now.
Thank you, Chair, Moderator, and all the eminent panelists.